What is up? Woo! It's that time again. The Brian Perras Show coming to you live, baby. 1 p.m. hour today. Excited about today's show. I got a great man coming on the show today. We're going to have a lot of man talk, God talk, spirituality talk today. Toxic masculinity. That is the key today. Is we're going to talk about. So this guy, great husband and father, he knows what it takes to be what it is to be the leader of his household, the godly principled man. And we're here to talk about that stuff today. I hope everyone had a blessed weekend. And, I know we're coming up to the Christmas holiday and people are worried about gifts and whatnot. You know what? What this holiday is about is Jesus Christ, celebrating him. I know it's not his real birthday, but this is the American or the world, however it is celebrated. This is how they celebrate his birthday with Christmas. But remember, Jesus is the reason for the season. It is about giving, not receiving, not material gifts. I see so many parents buying their kids all these expensive gifts, and yet these kids only play with them for like an hour or two, and then they're done. I don't understand that. It blows my mind, honestly. I just don't understand the gift, the expensive gifts, and then give them to your kids and they playing with them for 2 hours, when really it should be about just giving love and teaching the principles of Jesus Christ for this holiday and gathering and what he has meant to the whole world. And but I know we live in a world where many people have forgotten about that. So but I don't want to get too much into that. My guest is waiting, and I don't want to keep him waiting any longer. I'm excited about this guy. I consider him a friend and brother. I known him a long time ago, and I'm grateful to have him on. His name is Tim Urban. What's up, Tim? Good to see you, brother.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, glad to have you on, man. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I like your hair, and you got the Jesus look going to you, bro.
Oh, yeah, a little bit, I guess. It's the result of COVID, I stopped getting my hair cut, and I told my wife to tell me when she wanted me to cut it. She has still not said cut it, so here we are.
Hey, that's awesome. I love it. Your wife is pretty cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me know if the audio is too. I can't hear myself through here, but I think the audio should be good. But
yeah, you sound great. How's mine on your end?
Yeah, everything's good on my end. So just making sure.
Okay. Well, so I'm grateful to have you on. I know it's been a minute since I've caught up with you and that stuff, and I reached out to you recently, and I'm just grateful to have you on because I really just wanted to talk about man stuff. Being a godly man and the head of your household, and allowing God to be your principal and leading your household, and just take it from there, and have good conversation wherever it takes us. Allow the Spirit to take us, and and then if people want to know how we met and stuff, we can actually, we met through my father, which was pretty cool. And I actually want to, since I have you on air real quick, I say thank you for the song that you gave me to play at his funeral, by the way.
Yeah.
It was really awesome, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead and just tell me what you've been up to. Tell me how the family is. What you guys are facing in this environment we're in today.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a father of two, right? I've got two little girls, and they're not little anymore. They're 9 and 7. So, yeah, I mean, most of my life is basically working and trying to provide for my wife and my two beautiful girls. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the difficulties that we faced are the difficulties that everyone's faced, in a kind of a crazy economy and stuff like that, But it's not. I gotta say this. I have not experienced anything worse than anyone else. I've been blessed, and God has definitely used this time very strongly in my life and in my family's life. So,
yeah, I think we're actually living in the greatest times in world history. You see a lot of biblical principles being played out, biblically, and it this is God, I believe, is given the world, the church, all of us who are in this world, not of this world, but are in it, a chance to turn to Him and turn to the good versus evil side of things, because we're in a spiritual war. And
Sure.
for people that don't know, Tim was on American Idol. He was he was you know getting a chance to be in Hollywood and stuff, but I think he was very principled and very God a godlike man that I think he saw a lot of the how Hollywood was, and I think this is just my view. I'm going to let him talk about his experiences, and so and I only bring this up so because men are being attacked, Tim, and I
Yeah.
call it the toxic masculinity, because to me toxic masculinity is being the head of the household, but allowing God to be that head so you can lead your family. And that's why I think they destroyed it. But this is why I'm bringing it up, because Tim, like, because I'd rather, like me, like, you're a humble guy, so I know you wouldn't talk about it, but Tim did really well on Idol, and he's getting opportunities in Hollywood, and he stayed very principled during that time. And 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 then I think he went home to Texas to just really lead his family, and left all that stuff that probably would have maybe tried to corrupt him behind to do. I don't know. I remember what he was doing back in the day. I don't know if he's still doing it, but we'll get people talked about, like, caught up here. But Tim, if you don't mind, just kind of
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
all that to where you are now, if you don't mind.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So American Idol, right? That was a long time ago now, right? I think it's back in 2010. So a
Damn,
long
a
time ago. I
lifetime
know.
ago, bro.
I know. And I moved to LA for a few years, was trying to do the acting music world. And yeah, I started dating my now wife at the time. So we were long distance for almost 3 years. And I just realized that, like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. It's not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think God kind of made that very apparent to me. I kept trying and, like, hey, let me try this. And I'd even have situations that looked like they were going to be really promising and, like, go really well. And then they didn't, and
And I
so,
think for a good reason, Tim, too, right?
I mean, yeah, like, looking back on it now, I can see how this played out. I can see kind of where things were going. At the time, I mean, if I'm honest, at the time, I was like, man, I don't know what's happening, you know.
Amen.
But I'm grateful because I knew what I wanted to do was to get married, to go home, and to be just be with my wife, right? I wanted to get married. I wanted to start a family, and I wanted to start down that path, even if it meant walking away from this other dream that I thought I was chasing.
And
So
I give you
yeah,
so much props for that, because I remember talking to you a little bit about that back in the day, and I'm like, you kind of inspired me a little bit too, because you were a little smarter though and saw it before I did. To be honest, like, God was always kind of telling me, bro, what are you doing, man? He was trying to hit me over the head hard, and but so I give you props, so much props, and I'm just really grateful my dad connected us, and because you kind of help me kind of stay geared towards that way as well. So sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
no, I mean, I'm glad to hear that. Like, for me, it was not like an easy decision, and it was something that I struggled with, because there was a part of me that thought that, like, God wanted me there to do something, and then I just realized that, like, that's not what's happening. Also, I realized, like, my walk with Christ was not where it needed to be either, right? So
Amen.
even if God had wanted me to really be involved and really do something there, I wasn't in a place, like, as a person. If you put me on a pedestal there, I'm not sure what you would see was Christ. I think you would just see a lot of Tim, which is
Yeah.
not what the world does not need that. So,
Amen. And that's what I was meaning. Like,
mhm.
that's probably why God took you out of that
Oh
situation. It
yeah,
would have led just like me, but like, it took me so long though. And that's why I think he took you away, and you followed what God was putting in your heart, the desires of your heart. And anyway, sorry.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, like, again, you look back on it now and you're like, man, I didn't see all this at the time. And
Yeah.
then you look at it and you go, okay, no, clearly God was working in this. Right now, I gotta say, like, theologically, I'm not that guy that thinks that everything you do was always going to happen. So God like is basically moving you around and doesn't tell you what's happening. I think you have choices throughout your life. Like I
Free
think
will.
I could have absolutely earlier on said, I'm out. I could have earlier on been like, hey God, I actually want to listen to you. Like I want to learn what it means to walk in the spirit instead of just like trying to be principled Christian. Like I could have done these things earlier. I
Yes, sir.
didn't. Right. And so it's like obviously God's gracious and there's the grace of God over your life. And like when you wake up to this and when you soften yourself and when you listen to God, he's going to be there. And then you can go, man, all of these paths led me to here. And it's like, yeah, no, those are the paths you chose until you chose to go here. Like, that's just how it works. Right. So it's my own hard-headedness that took so long, but also like to say that had I really been walking with Christ in a way that I needed to, like maybe things would go different in Hollywood. I don't worry about that. I don't really stress about that, but I do know that that's a reality. Like, because my daily walk lives that out. My daily walk, I know that, hey, if I'm listening to you, all of a sudden I find myself being used. I find myself being a better father and a better husband and all of those things. And then when I don't listen, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, all of a sudden, for some reason, God didn't want to use me today. No, that's not it. I wasn't listening. So like, that's on me. I can't like put that off and be like, yeah, God just didn't want me to be useful today. That's not how any of this works. So that's been kind of a big thing that I've learned over the last few years, is that it's like the grace of God is amazing, and it covers a lot of my own failings and in my walk with Christ. As you get closer and as you start to learn what it means, and then learn what it means to walk in the Spirit, right? Like actually listen in a daily, moment by moment, and try to develop that. Like that's a whole other level of a relationship with Christ that's available, and that, like, to me, that's where I'm pursuing. Like above everything, I want to pursue that, because if I do that, then I don't have to worry about being a good husband and a good father. That's going to happen, right? Amen. The love of Christ is going to come out of me. So to me, that's like it's like one of the easiest, and not easy, but it's the easiest way. You want to be the best father, husband, man you can be. You want to be the best at all of the things, right? It's like, well, just be a person who is listening to the Spirit of God in your life, and then living that. Learn to listen, learn what he sounds like, and learn to surrender all of those things to him, and then see what he does, right? Like then all of a sudden you can be that person, as opposed to, and look, you can try to just apply biblical principles. Biblical principles are awesome. Like they're great and they work, but there's a level where it's like
surface level Christianity, not deep spirituality of it all.
It's not how Jesus walked, right? Yeah. Like Jesus, and I laugh at this because there's a big part of the church that's like, listen, you just need to basically follow the biblical principles and you'll be set. And it's like, listen, if you follow even biblical wisdom, then you would look at the life of Jesus and go, I don't think you should have done that. Like, I don't think you should have rubbed dirt in a guy's eye. Like, oh, that's how we did a miracle. That sounds insane. And it's like, well, it does to you and me if we're just thinking biblical principles, wisdom.
Yeah. But he was, and that's why the church is failing, Tim. That's why I believe the churches are failing the people. Yeah, well, and the thing is, churches are designed to keep people in the inside, right? They want to get you in there. And also, look, this isn't how Christianity is taught. Christianity, we teach Christianity as if it's just hey, pray a prayer, then you're good. Get inside a church, learn some principles, and you're good. And it's like that's not the heart of God for people, for humanity. The heart of God is a return to that intimate relationship where you know him, he knows you, and you walk in that. And that can look a whole lot of different ways, but all of them reflecting Christ. Yes. And I think so you brought up the China virus about your hair and everything and all the lockdowns. And I think not only I think it was a scam, but I think it was also a test run too, to lock people in their homes, so that way they don't have relationships. So that way they feel isolated, feel imprisoned. And that's where they can attack the mind. The devil can attack the mind and the heart, because, when you're not having a relationship like you and I are having right now, that is bad, because God wants us to have a relationship. He wants us to talk about the spirituality deep inside, like we were talking about. And it is about a spirituality, not religion. Religion to me is bad and a cult type mentality. And we need to be more spiritual Sorry, go ahead.
No. Like COVID to me, aside from all of the like, where did it come from, and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, I think it was. COVID is not what was put out in front of us, and they scared a lot of people into doing a lot of things that they shouldn't have done. So, and we could talk about that, but that's been hashed out a million different
Oh
times.
yeah.
But to me, one of the things that happened during COVID, and I actually think I think this is actually a good thing. What happened during COVID is that a lot of people's foundations were shaken.
Yes.
And they realized, like, what was my foundation built on? If it was built on my job, that might be gone now. If it was built on my health, if it was built on things going well, it's like there were a lot of people sitting in pews on Sunday mornings whose foundation was not built on Christ alone. It was not built on their relationship with Christ. It was built on the fact that life was going well. And so it was like, yeah, I feel like I'm a good person, so I'm in church. But realistically, your relationship with God is largely based on the fact that like things are going well. So you're like, thank you, God, for all the good things. And that's my relationship. What happened with me, like COVID was not a great situation. I had just started a video production company, like literally about 6 months before COVID hit. It turns out not a lot of people needed videos during COVID. So I ended up working a different job, just trying to put food on the table. It was not a good time financially for us, like, which is the story of so many people, right? That's reality. Yep. But in that, my foundation was shaken, and in that time, I also really encountered Christ in a way that I had never before. So like that time was actually one of the most important for me, because all of my foundation, everything I thought that I was built on, like as a man, providing for my family, it's like, I don't know how that's going to happen. But I found and I surrendered more of myself to Christ and allowed him to work in me and change my identity. And at that point, like, it was crazy because my wife and I, it was like difficult financial situations and there was different things, but I think our relationship actually got stronger. And coming out of that, our relationship is better than it was before all of that. When things were easier, our relationship now is better. But it's because of the work of Christ in me, and because of me being willing to surrender and then letting the Holy Spirit work in me. So like, to me, that's the hope of all of it, right? It's like,
for sure.
Yeah, they're trying to isolate you. People are trying to isolate us, right? There's all of this can be very, very true. But in the end, if you're isolated, that's when you find out whether or not you're really hearing from God or not personally, whether that's a part of who you are. And that can also be a good thing. It can be a wake-up call to say, listen, you got to listen more. You know, you have to learn to surrender and to move in that. And then on the other side of it, you have a stronger relationship with God, which makes you more effective at being in the world. So, like I said, for me, I'm actually grateful for
me too.
For what happened through it. And it gave me a lot of clarity, and God worked a lot of things in my life that I'm very, very grateful for.
Same here, Tim. I actually left Hollywood in the November 2020 election. But during that process, it went after my spirituality, because, you know, I was a believer as well, but I think it was like the surface level type. You know, I was the principles of it all, but you were in that worldly mindset of chasing your dreams and all that stuff. And then I ran for United States Congress out there. What an idiot, huh? Who runs as a conservative, standing up for like the principles of godly principles, what President Trump was speaking in Hollywood. What an idiot. But what it did is it really just helped me grow stronger. The attacks, the being called every name in the book, I started just like honoring God, and because that's when we're really supposed to honor him, is not through just the good, but the bad, and the attacks, and it really just helped. And as soon as I left Hollywood, I felt such a weight off my shoulders as I was leaving California. And ever since then, the spirituality of me just has grown stronger and stronger. And stand on God's principle. I mean, I'm a sinner saved by grace. I'm not perfect.
Everyone
I
is.
still,
That's a storyline of humanity. You can't get away from that.
yeah,
Um, but hey, here's the other thing. While that is absolutely true, what that means, what God says, what the Bible says about what your identity is now in Christ, after you've accepted Christ, after you've surrendered to Him, what He says we are now in Christ is not our identity is not sinner saved by grace anymore. Our identity is child of God. Our identity is righteous in God's eyes, which is crazy. That means He doesn't look at us and see sinner saved by grace. He looks at us and sees child that has been restored. And that's the heart of His relationship that He wants for us. And like that was a big thing. That took a long time for me to really accept, because I'm like, man, I see myself and I just see failures, man. I
yeah,
just see everything I've screwed up. But the thing is, like, um, we're lessening the grace of God when we decide that what He says about salvation isn't totally true for us. When God says, you are mine, you are saved, you are a child, that is what is restored, then that means that's what we are. And so we lessen the grace of God when we still look at ourselves and we say, I am still just this broken thing. That's what you were outside of Christ. What is available to you now in the heart of God for us is to walk as children, walk as righteous, because that's how you actually impact the world. So it's like that's owning that. Obviously, it's the grace of God. It's not because I did anything. In my
exactly.
own, I would be nothing, but
We don't
because of
deserve any
Christ,
of it. Yeah,
right? We don't deserve it, but it is the value that God has placed on us, and
yeah,
that's what's crazy. Is it's like it's not because I did anything that like deserve this thing, but it's because Christ, God, when He made us, He made children. He made in His image, like He
yep,
made us for something incredible. So it's like he did everything He needed to do to restore us, and we choose to surrender to that. That changes our whole identity. So
I
like
agree. And
that to me is
our
exactly
outlook too.
absolutely it changes everything, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, that's like if more people like that's Christianity, right? It's you see your need, you see your brokenness, you see that you need a relationship. And then when you surrender to Christ, what He gives you, what God puts on you is an identity that is now righteous, that is now forgiven. He's not viewing you as this broken, empty thing anymore. He is viewing you as a son, as a daughter, created in His image to go do something for Him, to listen to Him, and to walk as Christ walked. And it's like that's all that's available to you. So to me, like, listen, you want to know what I'm pursuing more than anything, Brian? You know what I'm
Sure.
chasing after more than anything else right now in my life? What I'm chasing after is is the best, the fullest, the most deepest relationship that's available with God. I don't want surface level, right?
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
don't, and I refuse to settle for anybody else saying, "Oh, you can only get here,"
No, no,
or
you
"You
got.
will only get this after you die." Right? It's like,
Mhm.
no, no, no. I'm going to keep pursuing, like Paul said he was going to keep pursuing. He said, I haven't gotten everything yet, but I'm going to keep going that way, and I'm going to forget everything that's behind me. I'm not stressing about that. I'm pushing forward. So it's like, to me, that's the hope of all of it, right? Like that's the whole point. And how that plays out in my life, professionally, personally, like, I don't know. God's gonna God's gonna keep doing things in these different situations. But me, like who I am, like what I'm pursuing is that. And I know
Yeah,
God will be glorified and honored in all of that if that is my pursuit.
I agree with that. That I've learned a lot of that since leaving Hollywood and since renewing. I guess not renewing, but really letting go of the pride. I guess you would say, even though I wasn't prideful, but you're prideful in the sense that you chase the worldly dreams. And when I humbled myself and surrendered to them, and I surrender every day, like exactly what you said is so true, and that's what I seek. But it's just you for men who are struggling and that don't have the hope. It really is simple to humble yourself and just say, God, it's your take control. I guess it's not simple to walk always when you're in the
Right.
world but yeah, we're meant to use. If you read the Bible, we're meant to use more part of our brains, and God has, there's a lot of that you could be, like you're saying, seeking to, and it's hard to really describe, but you said it so well that I don't need to really expand on it. But that's what I seek. In and I guess sometimes I say I don't really deserve this, but man, it's so humbling and so great. I'm so grateful every day that God allows me to wake up to serve His will,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
to try to maybe help save one soul at a time, and if it's just somebody on the street or I bump into wherever I'm going, it really is about letting His shine glow on you, through you, and yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, look, this is, I believe, I really truly believe this, that the people who have accepted Christ, like that this is what they want. Like this is the really the hope of life now, is that they can walk more and more as God wants them to walk. But so many Christians are, and look, Christians and people who are not Christians, non-believers, like there is something inside of every single person. It says in the Bible that the God put eternity on our hearts, right? Like
Yeah.
that's built into us as created in the image of God. Is this pull for more? And then often what happens with Christians is you get saved, you accept Jesus, but nobody explains to you that what's available is this deep relationship that's not based on you coming and crawling back to God every time you mess up and like, I'm terrible and let me go, spend the next three months feeling terrible about myself. It's like, no, what's available to you is that you get to walk in a new life and a new identity, in hope and joy. And that's that's one of the big things that,
and peace.
right. And that's one of the big things that God kind of showed me, is that like, basically if what I'm experiencing, from whatever life is happening, if I'm not experiencing joy and peace and hope, then I'm not where God wants me to be. And that doesn't mean that like I mess up, do something stupid. It's like God's not going to go, hey, what are we doing there? He is, but it's always in love, and it's not just to smack you. The point is, hey, that's not who you are now. Like that's not who I created you to be. You have so much more. Like that's not you walking as a son. That's you walking in the brokenness that I saved you from. So come back, fall back to me. We tend to be like, I messed up, I gotta hide from God, He's gonna be mad at me. And I
you can't hide from Him, right?
Right, you can't hide, but we treat it like that. We treat it like let's have a distance here. And that's not what God wants. Like that's not the heart of God. The heart of God is come back to me, fall back to me.
It hurts His feelings that, well, I don't mean feelings, but it hurts Him when we pull away.
Right. Well, yeah, because He knows that the only hope we have is more intimacy with Him, right? He knows that. He made us, right? So it's not a big shock to God that, hey, without me, these people are lost. Of course we are. That's the point. So that means He also knows that when we are lost, when we stop walking in identity, in who we are in Christ, that the only hope we have is to fall back into Him, to come back and say, Father, I did. I walk. That's not who you want me to be. That's not who I am. And thank you that's not what life is and what you have for me. And acknowledging that, like, I'm walking in myself. I don't want to do that. And the thing is, it sounds too easy because we like the idea that we need to like beat ourselves. But the reality is like Christ already took that beating.
Yes.
So if that's what we're trying to do, then we're trying to put Christ back on the cross and go, nope, somebody else still has to die for my mistakes and for my this and that. Already done. And that price has been paid. So now you pursue Christ, you pursue intimacy with God, and you pursue walking in the Spirit and in that identity. And as you stumble along the way, that's going to happen, but you fall back into Christ. You fall back into the embrace of God and into the love of God, and let Him transform even more of you. Surrender more of you. To me, that's been a big like identity where I'm like, oh, wow, I just realized that that was something I haven't surrendered to you. I have not let the Spirit work in that situation in my life. So it's like where I just walked in less than, where I just screwed up, is because I didn't let you into any part of that. So of course I'm going to. So it's a little bit like a flashlight. It's like, oh, hey, see that? Give it to me. And so it can be a process that it's not a fun process, but there is joy in it because you're recognizing and you're seeing more of yourself that you can surrender and that you can give to him and let him restore.
Yeah. It's kind of like going through AA in a way, but
Yeah.
in each area of your life that you need to get rid of the flesh part. Because in the Bible, it says we die every day. And that means
Yeah. Take up your cross, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So now
Absolutely.
let me ask you, let me kind of gear a little bit. So since you have daughters, do they go to
Yep.
public school, Tim?
No chance. No
Thank
chance.
God.
My kids are homeschooled, baby.
Amen, brother. Okay, good.
Hey, listen. I got some very strong opinions on education. All
I would
right.
love to hear them. That's what I was kind of going for. So, and how would I want to also hear your opinion on, say your daughters are any of your daughters in sports?
Not yet, but they might be. But I know where you're going on this.
Okay. So, if you don't mind, I would love to hear your opinions on education and men pretending to be girls to play in girls' sports.
Oh man. Okay. So look, education. All right. Here's the thing. On education in general, we just fail at education in this country, like as a whole, primarily for one reason, which encompasses all of it. We are not teaching kids and young people how to ask the question why and then answer the question why. So we're basically put them in schools. We're throwing information at them that want them to be able to recite back, learn basic stuff. And then we fail at that too. Like we also fail at that. But we're not really challenging their minds to say, hey, listen, why do you think that is the case? Like, because that was a huge thing. I was homeschooled, but the biggest thing I took away from being homeschooled, on top of like, hey, I can read, I can write, I can whatever. Most of what I've learned and most of the things that I know now came after I was done being homeschooled. But it was because my parents, that was built into us every single day was this idea of why. Why is this true? Even if we recited something back that they had told us. Mm-hmm. My dad, it was this hilarious thing that I hated at the time. But it was like anytime if I would say something, he'd look at me and go, why is that true? And I'm like, you just told me this. And he's like, but that's not why it's true. I know why it's true. But if you don't know why, if you can't take this, the joke was if you can't take it back to Adam, if you can't actually know why this is true, well, then don't hold on to that belief very firmly. So as far as education is concerned, it's like, yeah, we need to read, we need to write, we need math, right? We need history, we need an understanding of things. But realistically,
financial fundamentals even too.
Yeah, absolutely. Financial fundamentals, like all of those things are true. But in the end, you need to be able to ask the question why and answer the question why, because then you can learn everything else. It doesn't take very long to learn financial literacy. It really is not that complicated to learn the basics. But when you can ask why is that happening, or what's going on here, and then be able to answer it yourself, go find that information and trust that you can actually learn these things. Like that's the biggest gift you can give kids is just that. And if we did that more, it would entirely change our education. We wouldn't need to waste as much time with a bunch of extra stuff that's not needed.
Well, it's an indoctrination. That's why.
Well, but that's what education is everywhere. Like that's the nature of education. It always takes on, the indoctrination of whoever's in charge. Because the thing is, like, we look at it now, and if you're Christian, if you're conservative, you look at it and you're like, I see them indoctrinating people this way. Well, it's like people when it was closer to what we would want. People on the other people would look at it and go, they're indoctrinating people this way, which is true. Like that's what you're indoctrinating. So in the end, like the problem is not just that it's indoctrination. Everything's indoctrination. The problem is that you're not challenging people and giving them the tools to challenge what you're even telling them. And that's the point. It's like, hey, listen, this is why we believe this happened. But here's how, like, you should go chase this information down. Go see if you find something that we're missing. To me, the whole point is the pursuit of like, what's actually the best answer to this situation? Like, what's the why behind it so we can have a better grasp of it? And I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I want you to challenge me so that I'm not holding on to a wrong belief. Like that to me is the indoctrination. It's like, man, most teachers, I apologize, I was not in public school. Most people don't actually have a grounding for what they believe. They're just repeating something that somebody else said, period.
It's in a book, right?
Right. It's in a book or somebody they know and love said it. And so they just regurgitate it. And they're like, hey, check this out. And then it's like, yeah, that's a tweet. That's a Facebook post. but like I could tear that apart in about 6 seconds, even though I agree with some of the principles.
Yeah.
Like, and so that to me is one of the biggest problems with education, and it
So
affects everyone.
why don't we take what is given in the Bible as, because that is actually the the most knowledge that you could use. Like that's the best knowledge you can get in the wisdom, rather than what some human that is a professor or author wrote in some book, and then that person's pushing it on. I don't know. So why is it that we took the Bible principles out of everything? And I want to ask you too about, so I bring up homeschool to people, and some people, well, I don't want my kid not to be socialized. Can you tell people, since you were homeschooled and your kids are being homeschooled, did you have a good social life, like with other kids, and as your kids now as well, like if you don't
Yeah,
mind?
I've got 9 brothers and sisters. Okay,
Yeah, you got
I've
a big
got
family, that's for
I've got
sure.
4 brothers and 5 sisters, and the neighbors were always over at our house. It was always the craziest house. We were involved in church and a handful of other activities. We were around other people. Did I get the same social experience as other high schoolers, other kids in public school? No, and I'm really grateful for that,
Yeah,
because I don't think there's anything about that experience that leads people to being like better prepared for the world. It just sets them up to be in peer pressure from the get-go, before they even have a foundation to know what's going on.
yeah, or
And so it's like,
bullied or be
yeah,
bullied.
absolutely. Like it's a lot of things, a lot of situations that I don't know why we decided that's a good thing,
Yeah,
because it doesn't, like, the results are not good, generally speaking. They're
yeah,
not better in public school versus other options. And my daughters, like I have 2 daughters, but because I've got 9 brothers and sisters, and most of them are local. They've got cousins, they've got, and they've got different friend groups that they're hanging out with. So it's like they're around other people all the time. But in the
and
end,
they're
like,
pretty good kids too, right? They're not going out causing mischief just because they're homeschooled and they're bored or whatever. So I just wanted, I'm appreciating you really dissecting this a little bit, because people really, the social aspect. So I appreciate this.
yeah, well, look, the thing is, the social aspect, that can craft who your child is, right? And so basically you're letting other kids who you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what their beliefs, their parents or family belief is. It's like you're letting them craft your own child's identity, even more than you are in those situations. It's like you send your kid off to school, and look, there are people like that has to happen for some people. I understand that. So this is not a critique of like people in that situation.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
totally
We're not
get it.
judging. This is
No,
just your
yeah,
experiences, and what
this is
that
just
way
my
you can
experience.
help people that maybe
Yeah,
want to homeschool but they can't, or they say economically. I'm going to
right.
ask you that one too, as
Hmm.
far as how, if you,
Oh, yeah, there's been sacrifices to do this. My wife has not worked since our first baby was here. She's not worked. So basically, the entire responsibility for providing financially has been on me, and that's not been easy. There have been times, absolutely, countless times, where it'd be easier if we had 2 incomes, without question. But we've made the decision that we believe the best situation for our family, the best thing for us and for our kids, is that she's the one primarily responsible for them learning, them developing, and we want that to be the thing that they're doing. So yeah, are we making things harder on ourselves financially? Yeah. Are we making a lot of sacrifices to that end? Absolutely. Do I think it's worth it? Without question. Without question, I do. So,
because the best investment is your children, I believe personally.
yeah, well, it's your heritage. It's and it's the future that you're leaving for the country, right? Like the country is only as strong as the next generations. And the reality is, like, kids don't know anything. Like that, we should stop acting like if you just throw kids out into the wild, everything's going to go well. It's not. That's not how things work. They need to learn that you need to give them a grounding. You need to give them a framework to even go out into the world. And that to me is like what our main job is. And it's not that we keep our kids isolated. We keep them away from all of these things. No, we just make sure that they have a foundation on truth, have a foundation built on what we believe and who God's made them and those things before we just send them out into the world, because the world is very confused on everything. I know
Yes.
there's a handful of topics people want to grab this one and grab this one. Like, what about this? What about that? Like even if you pulled that out of the equation, people are still lost. People are
Oh
still
yeah.
searching, right? Like, so you pull any of these topics and be like, what about this? What about this? And it's like, yeah, people are lost.
Yeah.
People are broken. We should not be surprised by that.
No,
so,
definitely.
so it shows up all these different ways, but it's like my heart and my wife's heart for our kids is that they're going to go into the world with a much clearer idea of what's real and what's not,
Yeah.
right? And they're not going to fall for the ebbs and flows of society. They're going to end up they're going to have a foundation in Christ to look at the world and understand things through that lens. And it's gonna save them. I believe it's going to save them so much heartache and pain of trying to figure things out through the lens that the world gives you, because there's not really any good answers. There's maybe some temporary band-aids, but they fall off quickly, and
Yeah.
and then you have people who just keep like, I got to figure out the next thing. And it's like, I don't have to figure out the next thing. I've got the thing. And so
And
like nothing that I've experienced or seen in my life has told me that what I have, like who I am, is insufficient. That's not a thing. And I know that.
now, do other kids in the neighborhood, do they come to your, like, does every other people homeschool, or is it just your kids in your immediate neighborhood, and even in your family, do any of your cousins get homeschooled, and do you all kind of
Yeah.
combine? And where do you get your lesson plans from?
So most of my family also homeschool their kids. Most of my brothers and sisters, and my wife's sister, she's got 2 daughters. They're homeschooled. Now we live out in the country, so our closest neighbors are my wife's sister and her
Oh, that's
daughters.
awesome.
So they're always hanging out with my kids, which is great. But then like there's co-ops, right? There's different places that you
Yeah.
get together with other homeschoolers. And honestly, the curriculum, we go through different curriculums, right? Because it's like there's certain things they need to learn. And the other thing about being homeschooled is that you go, hey, one of my kids learns better this way, the other one doesn't. So let's adjust. And one of the coolest things, and this is one of the things that takes maybe the most courage when it comes to homeschooling, is the understanding that kids learn in spurts if you give them the opportunity to let their interest start to drive. That doesn't mean like, hey, let your kids just do whatever they want and they'll eventually learn how to read. No. But what it does mean is that there have been times in both of my daughters' lives, and they will continue to be, where it's like, hey, man, one of their cousins is reading a little faster than them, but they just don't seem to care that much. So you keep working through lessons, but you're not like trying to force them to catch up. You're just like, hey, we're going to keep doing it. And then all of a sudden they care. And in 3 months, they learn what you thought was going to take them a year or a year and a half. And all of a sudden they go from being behind where somebody else their age might have been to now they're ahead of some people. And it's like, because their interest was there, and because you have the opportunity to not force them and push them to do this and maybe kill that future interest, all of a sudden it clicks for them, and then they accelerate and they push through these things faster. And that's one of the things that I've seen play out in my daughter's lives that I'm really grateful that we have this opportunity, is that it's like, man, here, is she not catching on to this as quick? And it's like all of a sudden, boom, no, she cares, and now she's interested, and she just soared through that. And she's past where I was even worried about her being. And that's the nature of how that can work inside the kind of a homeschool situation. And so that's one of the things I'm very, very grateful for, is that it gives you the flexibility to go, hey, this isn't working, or look, they're more interested in this, so let's pursue this. They're more interested in this topic. So instead of me stressing about the math homework, they really want to learn about planets. Cool. Let's encourage learning. Let's encourage them to pursue this. And it turns out, as you learn about planets, you want to be able to read about planets.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden they want to read. Okay. So anyway, that to me is just like one of the coolest things about homeschooling that people who are thinking about it, should definitely keep in mind and just be aware of. That's there, and like that's a fun thing that you don't really have that opportunity inside of like a public school setting.
Which you touched on something for me that it really just, I've been getting goosebumps since our conversation. But see, supposedly as a kid, I was ADHD, ADD, Ritalin, Tylenol, Haldol. Oh, put that kid. It's because a lot of the stuff they teach you so freaking boring, Tim. It was just not my of interest, and certain things were, and I excelled in certain areas, and so they think it was. And when you touched on that just now, it made me think like, man, I wish I had teachers that recognized where because I really would have excelled even better, I think, instead of
Yeah,
being
look,
more of a
I was the
late
same way.
bloomer.
I was the same way. I was homeschooled, and I know I drove my mom nuts. Now
Yeah.
she's trying to juggle 10 kids, so it's pretty difficult to really be as like individualistic with it. But and she did an amazing job. Like my oldest brother went to the Air Force Academy, was in the Air Force for a long time. The
No, no.
next
For other,
oldest
wait,
brother,
real quick. You said oldest brother. Now you said you're one of 10. Which
yeah.
oldest brother?
Yeah, so I've got two older brothers, two younger brothers, three older sisters, two younger.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
was
yeah,
just kidding with you. I had to kid with you
yeah.
a little bit there.
But yeah, so but then the next brother, he's in marine intelligence, still is, has been for a long time. So it's like they did a really good job with the education. I think the way that I think about things, the way that I learn, it's fairly different than most of the people in my family. I realized that later on. But they did give me that key of being able to ask why and answer. And so as I really realized that, and as that developed in me, like I could catch up on so many things if I felt like, man, it didn't really click before. But the desire to learn is so ingrained in who I am that it's like, man, I pursue knowledge so much now, because like I want to challenge myself. I want to learn. And so even though like, yeah, my mom it was frustrating. And look, I was not an easy kid, period. So that's props to her for
Damn
not
you, not easy. Come on, man.
props to her for not tossing me to the road, saying I got 9 others I got to worry about. No, she amazing woman. But yeah, it's like the doing the best you can, but then also understanding that like just give your kids the tools, right? Encourage them to know that like even if this isn't clicking now, that doesn't mean you can't learn it. It doesn't mean you won't learn it. And also realizing that each person has different strengths. Mm-hmm. I tell everybody I work with, listen, I'm good at the creative. I can tell you a story. I can create, like help you explain things in a much clearer way. And I can really help communicate. And the abstract makes a lot of sense to me. You want to talk about a lot of topics, I got you. And it makes sense to me. But you put me in charge of the numbers and we're all going to jail. Like not because I want to, but because I'm looking at a page of just numbers and I'm going, man, what are we doing here? You make this words and concepts and it's like, cool, I can deconstruct, we're good. But you start doing just the math of it. And I'm like, man, I'm not the best at math and I never have been. And so instead of me stressing and being like, I got to learn and be really good at like calculus and stuff, I'm like, no, I'm going to do what my strengths are. I'm going to pursue this and I'm going to try to communicate and I'm going to surround myself with people who are good at these things. And then we're going to work together and create something cool. So yeah, I mean, like I'm just a huge fan of as much personalization in education as possible and as much encouraging of like children to think and learn to reason. Critical thinking is massive. And most kids don't even really engage with that until they get to college. I've had some conversations with people and it's like, man, first time I was really told you got to critically think through was when I got to college. And I'm thinking that's nuts.
Yeah.
Like that was from
elementary, right?
That was from when I was a kid. It wasn't even part of school. It was just part of life. Walking around, my dad's like, why? Like, oh no. I found out later that he did that because we kept asking him why all the time. So we turned it around and was like, no. You got to figure this out too. So
I love it.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful for that. But honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things. So just pass that on to your kids and do more of that yourself, right? Everybody should do more of that yourself. You got a strongly held belief. You got a strongly held, this is what I think. It's like, hey, examine those foundations and don't take somebody else's word for it as blanket. Go look at what they're basing this on and make sure that there's levels to this. Make sure at the base of this is a foundation that you actually believe that's actually strong enough to support it. Because otherwise, it doesn't matter if you're believing the right thing. If it's built on the wrong foundation, that's going to get knocked down.
Which is a lot of it is in schools is built on the wrong foundation.
Yeah.
Now I know what your answer is going to be, but this is just more, because we're speaking to an audience. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about teachers teaching your kids or anybody's kids about sex or if they should tell a kid to cut their penis off or, shouldn't that just, first of all, that's child abuse. And to me, because if you can't even get a tattoo till you're 18 or whatever, why should you be able to?
You got to leave the kids alone. You got to leave, not do that. Kids don't know anything. And the fact that we're trying to say that kids know this or that about themselves, really, when they're kids, like one of my daughters acted like a cat for about 3 months. Like,
There's
like what?
actually kids that do that in
Yeah,
school
yes,
today.
I know. And it's like the kids don't know, but also this goes down to the foundation, right? Because
Yeah.
the answer to this is not just, hey, don't be talking, like, leave that to the parents, leave that to them. The response to this is kids from a very early age. Like what I tell my daughters from a very, very early age is, listen, you're created in the image of God. Like, you are created for a purpose, and God has something for you that's amazing, but like your identity is found entirely in Him. And so you want to know like who you are and what you're supposed to be doing, and where there's hope and where there's joy, you pursue God, you listen to Him, and He's going to show you. And like you're going to, that can show up in like what your life looks like. I don't know. Does that mean you're going to be a stay-at-home mom like your mother? I don't know, and I don't care. Like what that looks like for you, if that's where God puts you, amazing, love that. I think it's the most important job in the world is being a person who's committed to raising the next generation. It's the most important job in society is educating the next generation. And so it's like, if that's what it is, great. But if one of my sisters has spent her entire life literally traveling the world, doing different mission work, doing different humanitarian stuff, like her life, and at some point she still might, get married and have a family and do all those things. But it's like, in the meantime, God's been using her to do crazy stuff, like things that I look at and I go, man, I wish that I had done even a fraction of what you've been able to do. So it's like, but that's her life, listening to God, and God saying, hey, listen, go do this.
Because
go do
there's
that.
got to be there's got to be people like you who have a family and raise kids. And
Sure.
There's also people that God's using, like your sister, and people like myself and others, to fight this good battle of spiritual war that we're in. So that's amazing. And then plus, I wanted to say, tell your brothers who are serving, thank you for what they're doing for us, and I really appreciate them. I'm loving this education talk and this principle talk. And so, what do you do? So say when your daughters start playing sports, and you see someone who is a male, pretending to be a woman playing in your daughter's sport, and say your daughter would have been the victor if that male wasn't in it. What do you,
Brian? You've already gone eight steps further than I would ever get. I'm not putting my children in that situation. I'm not putting them in that situation with a bunch of people like that. There's so much going on in that situation. And my children will never be there as children. I will never put them in that situation knowingly. And if I find out that that's the type of situation that they are in, we will be gone from that situation.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, like, say you're playing a team and they have someone like that.
But that's what I mean is that like we're not going to engage in the world on the world's.
That's where I was kind of going with it. Not acknowledging that. I agree, and that's
it's because the thing is, for my daughters, like, they are being raised to know that everyone is created in the image of God, right? Yes. But that also means that, and this is not exclusive to this specific issue. It's everything. Is that people don't know that. People have not experienced the love of God. They do not know who they are, and that shows up a million different ways, right? And it's like, oh, this person is more traditional in how they show up. It's like, listen, the other kids by you, like, even if that's not the case, like, they still might not know who they are. So you got to know, like, that's the world you're in. And as they get older, like, I'm actually not scared of my kids going into these situations as they get older, because they're going to have a foundation.
Exactly.
And so, like, that's not what I'm stressed about. But now,
I'm just asking.
Yeah. No, but like now, like, I don't think it's safe, like, to have people who are, just biologically they're gonna be stronger. Like, so like there's been injuries and other things that, like, you need to acknowledge. That's not a good situation. So it's like, for my own kids' safety and everything else, that's not going to happen.
And it just destroys the women's sports. Like, women fought hard to have Title IX and have their own sport, and to have men who maybe can't compete with other men, and to say they're going to be women and just dominate women's sports. It's kind of like, dude, like, don't you do you really feel good about yourself? Like,
and the thing is, like, our society has been so much turned to accommodating people
Yeah.
in everything, in everything. It's not
Yeah.
just this, it's everything.
I agree. Yeah. No, I agree.
Whoever's going to be the loudest is going to get what they want. Period. It's what shows up. And so it's like that we got to have some foundational just beliefs and values like about, listen, this is how our society is going to be. Period. Like if we're going to have women's sports, let's have women's sports. Like there's some unbelievably talented female athletes that, listen, if I got on a track with any of these girls, like I'm in the dust. They are torching me. It's like,
I agree.
But also, I know that the fastest dudes are way faster, like significantly. This isn't a contest, and it shouldn't be. And it's not degrading to be like, hey, listen, we have to split this up for a reason. Like it's just the nature of it. That's fine. That's okay, and that's great. To me, it's a little bit like college sports versus professional sports. You put any college football team in the nation on a field with a professional football team, they are going to get destroyed.
Yeah. They're going to get Alabama versus Carolina Panthers, we'll say.
Sure. It's still going badly for Alabama, right?
Yes.
And is that because Alabama sucks? No, it's because you put them in a competition that they're not ready for, that they cannot compete on that level in mass. So it's like, it's not an insult to you to say that.
Yeah.
And also we love college sports. I love watching Alabama. I love watching Texas. Like I love that. That's great. But the moment you're like, yeah, we got to force all that, like college teams should be playing professional teams like that. Why? Like, that's not a good thing. That doesn't help anyone. And it doesn't let my daughters know that there's something that they can aspire to in that world. Like now, if things kept going this direction, like and my daughters are like, I want to be a professional soccer player. I want to be a professional this. It's like, well, listen, I don't know how that's really a possibility because you're competing against people you just will never be able to catch up to. And that would be a huge loss to me for society, right? Huge loss to me for so many people. And it would be a step back in so much that we're trying to encourage like young girls and women, like you can do anything you want. It's like, unless you can't because of this or that. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, again, it comes down to like where my foundation is. Like people don't know their identity in Christ. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they're created for. They don't know the hope and joy that comes from that. And so they're reaching for different things. And it shows up in a million different ways. This is not exclusive to any of these situations. Listen, men do that in mass. We go to our jobs. We go to the success or failure of our relationships. We go to our prowess in athletics or other things. Like we wrap our identity around those things.
Yeah.
In a society, we're like, well, those are good because you work hard, you're gonna help everything out. And it's like those are good things. Yeah, but that person, that man, when that man goes home, that man is depressed. That man is broken. He's gonna keep doing this because that's what men do. Like, hey, stick it out. That's what men do, and that's true. But there's not more hope there. Like that's not a place of hope and like where you should be. That's a place where so many men, the majority of men, find themselves. But that's not where their purpose is. It's not where their hope is. It's not where they're what they're created for. That's not where you find that. Mm-hmm. So to me, I'm like, listen, whatever that shows up as, you might be looking at the world and you're like, I'm not in these situations. It's like, yeah, but if when you get home, when you get by yourself, if you're like, man, I'm trash. Like there's so many men who are hurting, who are broken. Yeah, it's like, if that's who you are, listen, that's not where God wants you to be. That's not where the hope is. That's not, and there is something else. There is more. There is joy. There is peace. All of these things are available to you, and they're found in the same place that the rest of the world will find those things. And so it's like, just pursue that. You chase after that. Don't worry about being better than, or look how messed up this is. At least I'm not that. Yes. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, I don't want to be better than other Christians. That's not even how I think about things. That's not what I'm about.
I want to be as good as Jesus if I can. Right. Obviously I'll never get there, but I mean, I try to be
as much as possible. I want to walk as Christ walked, period. Yes. And to view the world through his eyes, where he wasn't looking at people and being like, oh, you're trash. He was looking at the people who viewed themselves as trash and going, no, I got you. You're with me. He was looking at the people who thought they weren't trash, who thought they had it. And he's like, nope, you missed it. You're wrong. But the rest of the world, like the people, the broken, it's like he saw them for what he made them for. He saw them for what God, the heart of God for them.
For
But to
sure.
me, it's like that's all I'm trying to do, man. That's where my pursuit is. That's where my
And
hope
I,
is.
and I agree, and that's where men should be, because men have
Yeah.
been attacked, been
Mhm.
destroyed. That's why they've taken them out of the family home unit to just kind of attack the rest of the family.
Everyone has been attacked. Women have
Yeah,
been
yeah.
attacked
Well, yeah,
in
yeah. But I'm saying
massive
once you
ways
get the
too.
men out
Yeah.
of the way, it was
Mhm.
easier to kind of go after the rest of the
Yeah.
family unit.
You, you you break it. You break all of it. That you break the whole thing, and yeah, it's a mess, and we find ourselves in a mess with a lot of people who are floundering, and
Yeah,
I get it. I get it.
for
So
sure. So we mentioned, I want to do a little lightheartedness. We mentioned college football, some
mhm.
sports. Well, before I get there, are your daughters, you and the family going to watch the Olympics this summer?
Probably we're gonna watch some of it. I
What
imagine.
sports? Maybe just out of curiosity, maybe
Man,
track or
Summer
what?
Olympics, man, I've always enjoyed swimming, just because it's crazy. I can't swim very well, so watching Michael Phelps just fly back and forth, it's crazy how fast. Was it Katie Ledecky? I believe is the American, the woman. It's like these people are nuts. The fact that they can do this, like I would drown. Like they should put me in there as just like a context swimmer. And there's some of the 600 meters. I get one. I might maybe make it down there once, and then
Doggy
like
paddle? Would you doggy
oh,
paddle too?
I mean, I would be stopping to rest before I even got to the end of the pool. So like, I love that. And the thing is, like, I love watching track and field because
Yes.
it's so like pure athleticism. It's just pure like, man, it's crazy. I love
agree.
watching that stuff. Track and field's amazing. Yeah, there's a few different Olympic sports that I really, really enjoy. I think I might enjoy watching more winter sports than I do summer sports.
Do you really?
Partially
Are
because
you a big little? What is that one where they're sweeping the floor with the little thing? Is that
yeah,
what you like in
yeah.
winter?
That's my favorite. Absolutely. No, I think some of the winter sports give you the opportunity for more like crazy. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I saw that. Like summer sports, you're just hoping somebody breaks another record. And it's like, holy cow, these people keep pushing. But like you watch some people run a 100-meter dash. It's like, well, the next one's going to look very similar, just might be this much faster. So you're just hoping that somebody like, oh wow, they just broke this record, which is still crazy. I still will watch the sprints. Don't get me wrong, I'm gonna watch them. But you watch somebody, go flying off a high jump or flying off a ramp on a snowboard and doing like 7 flips, and you're going, I'm dead. Like I would die in that situation.
Like Shaun White. That's ridiculous.
Crazy. So I think Summer Olympics, there's probably fewer events that I'm like, man, I really have to watch this. I really enjoy. I've watched like just gymnastics. To me is crazy.
True.
The strength that it takes. That's one of those ones where you watch them like hit that pommel horse for the men where they're flying around, and I'm like, how? Like the core strength is insane. Watching the girls do the vault, and you're running full speed. You hit it, and you're flying and twisting, and somehow you land on your feet. Like unreal. So like that stuff is crazy to me. I just like that. I enjoy it.
What about flag football? Isn't that weird that they're bringing flag football rather than regular football?
It's not weird because like any country could spin up a flag football team way easier than getting 11 people and learning how to like block and do run defense and all that. Flag football is a much easier kind of barrier to entry. So that's much better than like running full 11-on-11 football. US would just hurt people. Whereas flag football, I think you got a better chance of like, people just running around. There's going to be some injuries, but not nearly as much as watching some little dude from a little team from, I don't know, Finland, right? Like put up 11 dudes against an NFL line. It's like, this is going to be painful. Like, you can try as hard as you want. They're going to hurt you. And so that's not. So I might tune in for a second. They'll have to figure out how to capture that in a really interesting way for me to care about flag football on TV.
Exactly.
Just because I don't like visually, that'll be one of the trickiest things for it not to look like I'm just watching some dudes on a weekend. Like I play flag football, so it's like I've seen that. I'm sure it'll be faster and better, but they're gonna have to figure out a way to film that really interestingly for me to care.
Amen.
Like, just realistically.
So for me, like the sports you mentioned for summer, those I do watch those, but there's in certain Olympic sports I watch the females over the men. And then vice versa. I'll watch men over the female, like with basketball. Yeah. I'll be honest, I wouldn't watch the women's basketball team play, but I
Right.
watch the men's. Or like
Right.
gymnastics, I like watching the female gymnastics over.
They do some much different stuff, like the different like exercises, the different things. It seems it's a very different thing watching men versus women in gymnastics. So like yeah. Do you remember that team, the women's team that won, and there was that girl who was like a broken leg, and she had
Yeah,
to,
that was 1996 in
yes,
Atlanta.
yeah,
I know
yes.
who, I think her name was Carrie, right? Carrie
Carrie Stroud, maybe.
Stroud or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yes.
that
Like
was
to
awesome.
me, yeah, it's one of the most like
Iconic moments.
yeah, iconic
Yeah.
moments in Olympic history. So
Yeah.
no, I totally, you know what, also though, as an American, it probably goes to the fact that the US women have been good at gymnastics forever, and the
True.
US men have like never really won. So
Yeah.
there's a part of it's like I don't enjoy watching the US suck at something, or not suck, right? But like not win. It's
Yeah.
like we consistently lose this. I don't enjoy that. We're Americans, we win.
I
But
agree.
then
I
you watch
guess.
the
Yeah, it's kind of like the soccer team, USA
yeah.
soccer team. The women have been good
Yep.
and the men haven't, but I won't watch the women's soccer team now because they bent their knee during the national anthem. So it's kind of like, but
But
they
if
take.
but if you're just talking pure enjoyment of
Yes.
watching a sport, it's
Yes.
like, yeah, you're probably watching
I watch
the
certain
women.
sports. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's like it is what it is, right? But that really just speaks to like people just want excellence. They just want you to do really good,
Yeah.
period. And so it's like I don't care if it's like women's sports, men, when it's the Olympics, man, I just want to see people do something crazy, do
Yeah.
something awesome, be the pinnacle of whatever group you're in. Be the pinnacle of that, and I'm going to be hyped about it. I'm going to think
For
it's
sure.
awesome, you know? And so I don't care. And also, if I stepped on any of these things, if I walked out on any of these, I'm just getting destroyed. I am getting torched. And there's a little bit element of humility when watching the Olympics. I'm like, man, I couldn't do any of this. Doesn't matter, male, female, whatever you're
Oh, yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine there's many things that I wouldn't be horribly embarrassed to step out there against these whoever they are. So yeah, like the Olympics is cool. There's just a lot of like there's so many different sports though now that it's like it's hard to.
Is there
hard to
any that
really-
we should have and should take out that you think? Like, do you think we should have baseball back in the Olympics?
I think baseball would be cool. I think the World Baseball Classic really
Makes up
kind of
for that.
showed a lot. Well, but it also showed a lot of people just how global the sport is and how much people care about playing for their country. So I could see, like, to me, yeah, throw baseball back in there. It's one of the biggest sports in the world.
But how do
It
you
is
do
kind of-
that during the Major League Baseball season?
you would just have to take it. You just have to pause, and you just have to know that that's going to happen. But the thing is, like, you're adding global viewers. To me, you just view it as we're adding global viewers to the sport, which MLB needs. Like they're the sport most in the United States that needs global growth.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, let's get the best players in the world. Let's show who they are, where they're playing, and let's try to grow this game globally. Let's grow more eyes. So to me, like if I was in charge of this, yeah, I'm like, listen, is it going to hurt your season right now to pause? I don't know, maybe. But the overall, like the bottom dollar, which is what this comes down to, like you're going to make way more money in the long run if you do
And have a
everything you
future
can.
generation of fans.
Yeah, absolutely. If you build this in, and I think the World Baseball Classic did that. So doing more of that is only a good thing. So I think baseball should be there. I don't see why it shouldn't.
What would you take out in the
I mean,
Summer Olympics that you don't think?
The thing is, baseball is such a massive infrastructure thing. There's not like a takeout, one of the kayaking events, and you can drop baseball in there.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
no, I mean, just what do you think as an Olympic sport maybe shouldn't be there? Like for me, that winter sport where I forget what it's called, where you're
Curling.
Curling. Yeah, I'm like, what's the point of curling? Like what?
Well, listen, have you done curling?
I've done like that, the shuffleboard, the shuffleboard thing.
Yeah. No, I haven't done curling. I've had friends who've done curling, and they're like, man, it's so hard. So I don't know.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's wildly difficult because you're trying to gauge where this thing's going to stop sliding on ice. Like, that's crazy. You got to throw it at a certain speed. Otherwise, you're just missing everything by a mile. We look at it, and our it's a different sport to us. And listen, I don't care. Like curling's curling. People love it.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just. I like to have fun with it.
Our exposure to curling is watching the best in the world do it. And when you watch the best in the world do it, you're like, that doesn't look that hard. But like my exposure to football was throwing a football around outside. And then it's like, oh wow, like I see these other people doing this, and I'm going, that's crazy. Because you have some experience with it. You race your buddies outside, so you watch somebody sprint, and you're like, holy, how do you even run that fast?
True.
But curling, it's like most people's first exposure to curling is an Olympic sport, and you're looking at it and going, that can't be that hard. But like, if people with that opinion, like, hey, just go try curling once, and you're gonna go, I didn't get a single point. I missed by a mile. I couldn't figure out how to stop that stupid thing. I launched it 80 feet by and 30 feet short, and I'm not sure why. Like, that's going to be your reality. Like,
Tim, I couldn't even do the ice skating part of it.
Right, exactly.
Ice skate.
Yeah. So there's an element where it's like, yeah, I mean, curling, I don't care. I'm not going to watch curling, but like, also,
yeah, no, it was more.
Yeah. Well, and it is like, there's a lot of Olympic sports that you go, this is kind of my view on it. Olympic sports, we should either have less of them or do a better job of promoting them the rest of the year, right? Like we should invest in actually like educating people on this sport. Like it should be all over social media that these competitions are still happening. Like some of the kayaking and some of the stuff in the water for the summer games, like that's cool. The only time I ever see this is in the Olympics. Yeah. So I don't really have a taste for it. I haven't been able to get into this at all. I don't know who really I'm rooting for.
And how do you even know about it to train for it?
Right. And so it's like you got a tiny group of people who are even doing this, and I don't know about it. So I'm just like, I guess whoever the American is, I'm going to cheer for it. But like the reality is, if you're watching NBA basketball, your favorite player might be on a different country's team, which is an interesting thing to see, because then you're like that makes the rooting more interesting. Yeah. So like to me, like, yeah, there's a lot of sports that I don't watch and don't care about because I don't ever interact with them except in the Olympics. So I watch them because I'm like, I hope USA wins. And then the moment I find out that the USA isn't really competitive in that sport, I'm out. I'm not even watching. I'm just like, hey, we need another medal here. I don't know what you're doing, but win one for the US of A. And then like, oh, we suck. I guess I'm not gonna watch. It's just this is the nature of it.
Sport that I like that I did really is handball, because I would play a little handball in LA. And I'm like, oh, this is an Olympic sport, huh? And and then you play it, and you're like, wow, this is because you can only bounce it like twice, and then throw it, or then I'm like, wow, this is. But how do you even learn about it to become an Olympian? Because I just randomly someone invited me to play, and I was like, whoa, this is cool, but how do you like? I didn't know, like,
how do you even get involved in this?
Yeah, you don't grow up playing handball, you know. Yeah. You play ball,
right?
Butts up, you know, is what it was called back in my day.
Oh yeah, no, it's So like, I mean, just back to the Olympics thing. It's like it is comes down to that. It's like there's a lot of sports I don't care about unless the U.S. is going to maybe win a medal, and then I'm like, let's go, let's get it. You know, I love to see that. But also that's partially just a failure on the marketing. Like, hey, spend less money on your opening ceremonies. I was going to watch anyway. Like, spend less money on some of this other stuff, and just like take all of that and just spread it out and let people do some marketing the rest of the years, right? You got 3 years to try to build some hype. It's like, do that. Like, then I'm going to care. Then your viewership's going to be up, and I'm going to want to see how people do in the Olympics. But yeah, so that kind of gets to the crux of it. Like, if I don't know about it, I'm not going to be that invested. Outside of a handful of like pinnacle Olympic things.
Yeah. Amen. So, all right, college football. We got the Final Four set. Who do you got? All right, so
let's go. Texas, baby.
Texas Longhorn. All right.
Yeah, come on.
I think they'll destroy Washington. And I think they wanted to set it up for a Texas-Alabama rematch, in my opinion.
I mean, listen, I wouldn't be surprised. It'd be that to me looks like a smart scenario. But I'm from Washington State, though. I was born in Washington State.
Oh yeah.
So it's a little bit of like I want Texas to win without question. Let's go Longhorns. I want a national title. If for some reason they can't get past Washington, I want Washington to win it all. Like that's where my rooting interest.
The winner of the Washington-Texas game to win it all.
Without question. And I want Texas to crush Washington. I don't want this to be close. I want them to blow them out by 40, right? Because I want to see that. But like, worst case scenario, if Washington wins, I want them to go on and win the championship, because then at least there's like, okay, cool. I got some love for the Washington team. So that's where my rooting interests lie.
So your big game is Texas Washington. So now who do you have? Michigan, Alabama. Who are you taking on that game?
Man, okay, I'm torn. Here's why. I've always kind of liked Michigan for some reason as a kid. You know, when you're a kid and you're not really sure why you latch onto a team. It's
Yeah.
like for some reason Michigan was one of those teams. Watched them play. Maybe it was the blue and yellow, and I don't know. But I've always liked Michigan. Anytime they're on, I just find myself being like, I guess I'm pulling for these guys.
Okay.
And Alabama has been like such a dominant team for so long that for years I did not like Alabama at all.
Yeah.
I wanted them to lose every game they played. Yeah. But then here's the thing. I watched the Pat McAfee show, sports, and Nick Saban's been on that doing interviews. And you watch him in interviews and you're like, it's so hard not to like this guy. So I'm torn because like I would love to see Michigan win it. Just because there's like a part of me that's like the kid part of me that for some reason said I like Michigan too. So I'd love to see them win it. But it's hard for me not to be kind of pulling. I won't be mad if it's Alabama in the final. I don't want them to win it all, but like
me neither.
I would like to see Michigan win, and that's what I'll be rooting for. And so it's like I want them to win, and I'll be a little sad if they don't win that game. But also, Nick Saban seems like a much cooler guy than I ever thought. Just watching him on the sideline yelling at people, like he actually seems like he's a pretty solid dude and really cares about these kids. And so I'm like, all right, cool. I guess I can't hate you. So yeah, my ideal matchup is Michigan, Texas. That's what I would love to see. And then I want Texas to beat the brakes off of them. I don't want it to be interesting. I want it to be the most boring national championship game ever, even more boring than last year, right? When TCU got walked out of that stadium early. Yeah. I'd be happy with that. As a Texas fan, I'm like, I don't want these close. I want these over and done first quarter. Put in Archie Manning. Let me get some tape on him for the next couple of years.
Amen, right? I am interested in that Harbaugh-Saban matchup.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, you know, he has a dynamic personality as well. And
he's hilarious in press conferences.
Oh, yeah.
He's so funny. So, yeah, I mean, I think as I've gotten older and like the person, like the people behind the teams has mattered more to me. It's like it's made rooting different because I didn't go to any of these schools. Mm-hmm. My brother went to UT. That's the closest I've got to any of these. And so I sort of adopted. I've been a UT fan since we moved to Texas. That's been like my team. Okay. But it's not like I don't bleed burnt orange. It's like, yeah, that's my team. I want them to do well. But there's other teams I like, and there's other people that I'm like, you're cool. I guess we can root for you too, or not be mad that you do okay, you know?
For sure.
So yeah, but it's so crazy to watch. College football it's special. And honestly, I do genuinely hope that there's just some good games. I would hate to see another national championship where the team just gets blown out.
I don't like blowouts, to be honest with you, Tim, especially in championship games.
No. Again, if it's my team and they blow you out, I'm not mad about it. But like as a fan,
it's still boring though. Like it's like, oh,
it's really boring for me. I'm just thinking about that natty. Let's go, baby. But yes, like realistically, I want it to be a game that I'm like, let's go. You know, we need to get a stop here. Like we got to get a touchdown. Like that makes it more fun, especially when your team does it. It also hurts more when you get beat that way.
Yeah, if you're the one that's teams that getting blown out, that really, you're.
Man, I can't figure out if being blown out hurts more than losing a close one. I think a blowout,
I think you'd rather lose a close one.
Well, okay, yes.
I've been in both sides of championship games where you're blown out, one close, got lost in a blowout, and lost close. And for me, like I don't know, I think I like that the closeness.
Yeah.
But when you win, you kind of want to win.
Recovery. But think about the recovery time. When you get blown out, you're already blown out in the first quarter. You're already on to next year. You kind of, by the time that game officially ends, you've already moved on. So it's like, if you're going to lose, if you have, like, hey, you're going to lose. Guaranteed you're going to lose. You want to know that right away, or you want to find out after you spent the whole game being like, we could win this thing. It's like, if I got to know we're going to lose, well, look, don't drag me along that much, man. It'll break my heart. Obviously, I'm kidding. Like that's the game you want to watch.
I know that's the journey of it, though. That's that. I know. That's that grind that you just want. Because like once you know you're blown out, do you really grind? Do you really?
No, you don't. But as a fan, like if I'm playing in that game, I want to lose on the last second so that I know I've got the whole experience of that competition. Like, no, I don't want to sit there and get torched as a player. But as a fan, I'm like, I'm going to invest so much in this game. And you're telling me we're going to get this close and get beat? That's going to stick with me for years. They said, like, we're this close. Like, the Cowboys are my team, right? Cowboys this year.
We'll talk about them. How did you feel about that Bills game yesterday?
I didn't even watch it, but my family was doing Christmas. Like we were doing Christmas, so I didn't get to watch it. I followed it, and I was like, yeah, that's tough.
It's a good thing you were doing that. You didn't miss anything.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: none of these games really matter that much. As far as like, if we lose it, okay, like we're still making the playoffs more than likely, and then you have to learn how to win on the road because we were like, since we lost
did last year, you played my Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And it looks like you guys might be playing my Buccaneers again. So if you want to come down to the game, I have an extra ticket for you.
Listen, man, we will beat the brakes off the Buccaneers.
You probably will, but I still have a ticket for you. And if you want to come to the game with me,
let's go. Let's go. No, that'd be awesome. But that's the thing. Like, so the Cowboys, it's like they have enough talent and they are good enough to win. The problem is our team is so comfortable playing in our stadium. You come to our place, we're going to beat you. We go to other people's places, and we seem to lose a lot.
Now, is that Dak? Do you think you can win it with Dak?
I think Dak's plenty good enough of a quarterback. Statistically speaking, performance-wise, he's good enough. It's just that I don't know what it is about the team, but it's like the team doesn't show up as well on the road. I got a lot of faith in Dak. I don't think Dak's the problem, especially looking at the other quarterbacks who have won Super Bowls. It's like I think
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Heck.
Right. It's like the team on paper should be good enough to do this. We just don't show up in other settings. Like the fact that Dak can drop 40 on like everyone at home and even in some away settings, but it's like he's a good quarterback. But in these inclement settings, our team's just not prepped for that. So we got to sort that out. But that's why I'm not actually scared of these losses now. Because you get embarrassed by the Bills, you realize we were not prepared for that. We got to get this sorted. So, I think there's time to get it fixed. Will they? I don't know. Are they the Cowboys that they've been every year for the last 20 years? Maybe. But there's a chance. And I hope that this type of embarrassment gets to people like that.
There's a chance.
Yeah. Sorry, that's all we're looking for as Cowboys fans. Just give me a chance. Let's win one. Let's win 2 playoff games, and then okay. So I don't know, but it's like every year somebody's got a chance to do something crazy. Just get in the dance and then see what happens.
I hope it's not the Eagles though. I don't want to see the Eagles again.
Oh, man, I don't like the Eagles.
Yeah.
Now, which sucks because there's a couple players on there that I like, but man,
me too.
I'm not. I don't want to see them win anything again.
Who do you have in the Super Bowl? Who do you think is going to make the Super Bowl?
Man, it sucks because they'd have to beat the Cowboys, but like I think the 49ers are going to be in the Super Bowl if they stay healthy.
You think Ravens Niners again?
I don't know if the Ravens are going to do it. I don't know. They're really good. Like I think the Ravens are great, but in the AFC,
you got Miami.
Yeah, the AFC is so close. Like there's so many teams stacked up there. Kansas City's not what they were, but you can't ever count them out. You can't ever count Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes out. I love what the Dolphins are doing, but they've also had a couple of games where it's like, why did you get beat here?
They've lost a good team. So,
right.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So I don't know how you can trust them. The Ravens, like they win, but I'm never like, oh, they're the best team. So it's tough. Now they could be because they're the most consistent team probably out of there. But I don't know. The AFC is the one I'm the most interested in top to bottom because all of a sudden you got the Browns surging with Joe Flacco. And
I love it.
What if they do something? I would be rooting for awesome. I would be rooting for them in the AFC with Joe Flacco to come off the bench, come off the street, and go to the Super Bowl. If the Cowboys aren't in the Super Bowl, 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, he was sitting on the couch like you and I. Now he's playing in the –
yeah, now he's winning games, throwing for more yards than any Browns quarterback in different. It's crazy. So like for me, AFC wise, I'm rooting for the Browns to get to the Super Bowl.
Hey man, I want Browns or Jacksonville or Miami.
You know what? I do like Jacksonville. I like Trevor Lawrence. I know he's kind of slightly underperformed a bit, but like I like him. I like Doug McDermott. Is it Doug McDermott?
Doug Peterson.
Sorry, Doug McDermott. He's where's Doug McDermott?
I don't know if he's.
I thought he was Buffalo.
Anywhere. Is that the Buffalo guy?
No, he used to be. He's not anymore.
Okay. And I do like Miami.
Yeah. So Miami's cool. I like their head coach. He's cool.
Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel. He's weird, but in like a way that I want to be friends with that guy.
Yeah.
It seems cool. And that's really the problem. Like I love football, so I'm gonna watch whoever's there, and I'm gonna be invested in it. and as a Cowboys fan, I've been a little bit like cauterized to the fact that they're probably going to break my heart. I don't want them to. I desperately want them to win. Years ago, and this was maybe the dumbest decision of my sports fandom. We moved from Washington, where we had the Seattle Seahawks, to Dallas. And I made a decision before the Seattle Seahawks had won anything, before the Cowboys won another Super Bowl. I've never been a Cowboys fan when they've won a Super Bowl. I made the decision. I was like, I cannot be both. My mom's a Seahawks fan. I was like, I am a Cowboys fan, so that when they win, if they ever win, I can actually be hyped about it. And then the Seahawks go and win a Super Bowl, go to another one, and I'm like, come on. I just chose the Cowboys, and you got to win some Super Bowl.
Maybe Tim, you need to go back to liking them so the Cowboys win one.
I know. No, it's like it sucks. No, it sucks. It does, because it's like I made the choice. I'm a Cowboys fan. Let's do this thing. And then great. And then the Seahawks go win one, and they haven't won one ever. And it's like, yeah, awesome. I picked wrong. But I did.
Russell Wilson hasn't been the same since he left there either.
He's been playing okay the second half of this year. They've gone on a little bit of a run.
Yeah, but
if you lose the first 4 or 5 games, but no, the numbers have not. Well, okay, I say that. Statistically speaking, he wasn't a bad quarterback.
Yeah, no, in Seattle, he was pretty good.
But even in Denver.
Oh, really?
Denver, statistically, I saw someone break down the numbers. His actual numbers for the year aren't terrible. The defense has just given up 70 points, and they couldn't stop anyone. So the offense, it's hard to get in a rhythm when the other team's just beating the brakes off you.
That's true.
And yeah, I don't know. I liked Russell Wilson in Seattle, and I would like to see the Broncos do better than they are. But yeah, I don't know. Football is such a frustrating, amazing sport. You're just watching it going this is gonna drive me nuts. And every year, every fan base except for one is going, come on.
Yep.
And if your team doesn't have Tom Brady for the last 20 years, you've been sitting there going, come on. Again.
We were blessed to have him here for 3 years. I still can't believe he came to Tampa.
I know, dude. It was great for y'all. Sucked for everyone else.
So let me ask you, college now that college athletes can be paid, do you think it's ruined college football a little bit? No, because the top teams were buying players anyway. They were buying them with under the table. That was clearly happening for decades. Or they were buying them with the fact that this is the best opportunity to go get paid. Or we've got the best facilities, or we've got the best. You always had the best of everything. I think, personally, it's actually made the game slightly more available to other schools. Because it's somebody can be this, the person right behind the starter at Ohio State would be the starter at most of these other colleges. So it's that college that I could not pry you from Ohio State by just saying come here and play football. It's now some of my boosters hey, I'll throw $1 million at this. And now you got a quarterback that you had no chance of recruiting otherwise. So me personally, I'm also, I'm a capitalist. You're making a ton of money for other people. And we just decided you're an amateur. And they make it off your back, yes.
Yeah, it's we decided you're an amateur. That's dumb. Imagine any other situation. You're hey, I'm 22 years old and I'm making a ton of money for this company. And the company's well, we don't have to pay you because you're only 22 and you're learning stuff. What? You could argue the scholarship and there are sports where it makes sense, because the sports aren't making money much for the teams, for the colleges. Yeah. And those level out. It's well, that's what scholarships are for, and great. But if there's a sport that colleges are making millions, billions of dollars, as a big entity, the NCAA, I think these kids should make some money. Because also you're asking them to go jeopardize their future. You're asking them to jeopardize their future career, their future earnings. And there are players who are so dominant in college that will never be in the pros. Imagine if Tim Tebow could have made money in college.
I know.
He would have made so much money. And obviously he's done fine. But he's just the jersey behind you. He's one of those examples of a player
I know.
Was unbelievable in college, was never going to translate fully to the NFL. Yeah. And so it's if that dude should be allowed to make as much money as he can off the college, because he's adding unbelievable value to Florida. So, and college football in general. He was the face of college football for the entire time he was there, just about. Sure. So, for me, it's you're adding a ton of value. You should be able to get some of that. And it's an opportunity for people who will never get to make generational wealth outside of college. But you're adding generational wealth to other people. You should get a piece of that. And if you're doing that in college, I'd love to see. There's so many great college players that it's like, man, they never made it in the NBA or the NFL or wherever. And it's like they should have made some money from this.
There's
And a lot of
ladies
them did fine, but
there's ladies in their sport who are making millions, like tennis, golf, and swimming.
Yeah,
Like
I think there's a gymnast in LSU. Yeah, there's a. I don't
know their names.
Yeah, well, she keeps popping up as like, this chick's making millions, and I'm like, good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
Like,
I agree.
I don't care about college gymnastics at all.
Me neither.
But like, if she's adding value and whatever, like,
because she would never make that.
Right.
After college, like, because all it is, she would. Because I don't know, for some people that don't know, when you're a college athlete, you're at like training 5 a.m. Yep. You're there for 2 hours. Then you go to class, like you go breakfast real quick. You go to class. Then in the noon, like lunch break, you're going to work out again. You get like for baseball, you go hit in the cage, do your thing, and then you go back to the rest of your classes. Then you actually have real practice. Mm-hmm. Then you go home and do your homework, and then hopefully go to sleep.
Yep.
So I like it. I mean, if you can make a few bucks, yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, that just makes sense. And I think the NCAA is just basically run by a bunch of knuckleheads. So
yes,
not a fan of that entity to begin with. So whatever
what do you
we
think
can
of
do.
Florida State being left out, by the way? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Man, that's tough because like whoever they leave out is going to be mad. It is tough that they left Florida State out.
Power 5 conference undefeated, though.
Yeah, but look at who they played. And look at the fact that like they lost their quarterback. They would get embarrassed in the champ if they somehow made it in. They would get boat raced by whoever they played. And like,
I mean, so if because you lose your quarterback and you still go undefeated, that they shouldn't be in.
Well, here's the thing: like most deserving or best teams, and that's always the argument. And
the
NCAA
Georgia should have been in there, don't you think?
Well, no, not necessarily, because they lost to Alabama.
But one game in the SEC championship.
Yeah, and they didn't have that strong of a record to begin with. They're undefeated, but they didn't have like this massively difficult strength of schedule, right?
In the SEC.
Yeah, but like they're out of conference. They didn't play Texas. Like Alabama played Texas, so like one of the best teams in the country. So like there's arguments for all of it, and that's why it's dumb that it's only 4 teams. Next year's gonna be a totally different story.
Yeah, 12, right? Next year.
Yeah, so like that's gonna be a lot more interesting. But like I can see how they got to this solution. And either way, if it wasn't Florida State, imagine Florida State's in, and then Texas is out, and Alabama's in, and you're like, we beat them.
Yeah, like, I don't think you put Alabama if you don't put Texas in.
Right, but and if they're not in, then you don't have them. So you got maybe Georgia, who just lost the SEC championship to Alabama, who only has 1 loss, and that was early on to a Texas team that is also in contention. It's like, man, you can argue this 18 different ways.
Yeah, I had to bring it up because I wanted to kind of because it's been a little fun.
Well, and it's one of those, like, if Texas had been out, I'd have been annoyed, but also like, this is an impossible situation. There's at least 6, 8 teams. Ohio State, like you're telling me Ohio State couldn't play any of these 4 teams and beat them on any given Saturday? Yeah. I don't think so. I think they
What about Washington, though? They're in a weak conference, Pac-12.
Yeah, but Oregon was so good, and they beat them twice. Like, Oregon was somebody that people kept trying to rank above Washington in the rankings. They wanted to, even though Washington beat them, and then they beat them again. So they went undefeated. Yeah, I know, but that one team was always in the top 4 to 6 teams in the country throughout the year. Yeah. So you beat a top 10 team twice this year. That's most than most teams play, like realistically, and win, right? Because that's the thing is like Alabama played Texas and they lost. Now Texas lost to Oklahoma, which was dumb, but because they have some quality wins, and either way, I honestly probably Texas's resume might be the weakest of the teams that are in. Yeah. And I know that, but I don't care. It's my team. Let's go.
Hey, yeah, I know. Hey,
so we're in. You know,
I think Texas should have been the 4 seed, Florida State 3, Washington 2, and Michigan 1.
But it's so hard to leave out an SEC team.
I agree.
Like,
and I'm an SEC guy.
Yeah, you would have had an entire chunk of the country saying this is BS.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to walk around my hometown because you want to leave an SEC team out, you nuts. I'm like, well.
And you can't argue that the ACC is a stronger conference than the SEC. Yeah. Like a 1-loss team coming out of the SEC versus a 1-loss, and also Florida State barely beat Louisville.
Well, they barely beat a couple teams,
right? And so you don't have a quarterback, and you barely beat Louisville, and Louisville's getting the brakes knocked off of them by every team in this
Oh
thing.
yeah,
More than likely. And it's not slight on them. They're obviously a good team this year, but these are like the best teams. So yeah, I mean, like if I were in that situation as a fan, I'm trying to create the best Final Four possible. I don't want to see another TCU in there getting destroyed.
You don't think it'll be Washington? You don't think TCU will be Washington this year?
Will be Washington this year?
Well, like I'm saying, do you think Washington will be similar to TCU? Will get blown out of the water?
I don't know, because people kept thinking they were going to lose to Oregon a couple times, and then they won though. Like they're a gritty team. I would not be shocked. Like I think Washington can probably play Texas pretty close.
Think it'll be a close game?
Yeah, because I think a lot of the perception of Washington is based on past years, where they've always been like, yeah, decent, or they've been decent, but you never think they're actually a premier team. Whereas this year with Michael Penix and like he's got a lot of experience, so it's like they're bringing a lot more to the table than I think they ever have as a team, at least in the last however long.
I agree with that
previously, but so I think I don't think they're going to be TCU. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I hope not.
Now, listen, the problem is there's always a chance you get into this national championship and you're playing Alabama and you're just not ready for that defense. The team that just aren't. There's nothing that, if you haven't faced it, there's nothing that can prepare you for it. Not really. Yeah. So I think there's a chance that Alabama hit their stride after they lost to Texas. They figured it out, and now they're on just an absolute torch, right? They're just going to burn everybody. That's like
I think Alabama wins it all, unfortunately.
I would not be surprised. Like it's my least favorite outcome of any of this is that Alabama wins it all.
Yes.
So yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised. They're just so good.
Yes.
And honestly,
I think they want to prove a point too.
Yeah, well, Nick Saban's trying to prove. People are saying Georgia was the dominant team, and like Nick Saban was maybe done, and maybe he should retire. And he's like, I don't think so. And I think his team has adopted that. Like, you're saying this about our coach? I don't think so. Watch out. So I don't know, man. What I'm scared about is that their quarterback is young, and they made it to the championship with this dude now, and he's going to be back next year. Like, he's going to keep getting better. So whatever they do this year, I just have a feeling they're going to be better next year. And I'm just like, great.
Unfortunately,
love that for
terrible.
Yeah. Yes, they are. Florida sucks.
Yes, they do.
Oh man.
Jeez.
All right, Brian.
What about Deion's team,
Colorado? I mean, look, I think if Colorado gets an offense and defensive line, they're not big enough to play with most teams.
No.
And look, even though you brought over all these people, all these guys, like you haven't brought over people who have won at this level.
That's right.
So you still have to build a winning culture, and you have to figure out how to win the ugly games. And they haven't figured that out yet. And honestly, he said this: we don't have the size, we don't have the big boys to do this. So he knows they have. That's his primary goal in recruiting. So my thing with Deion is he took that program from nobody cares about this to people care about it. We won some games, and also the guys here learned we're not ready, we're not there. So you can't be acting like we're better than we are, right? Like we're gonna have to earn this. They have talent. If he can get some big men, if he can get some big boys in there. I'm excited to watch him next year. And if he stays, like he's going to have so many job opportunities.
For sure.
If he stays for like 4 or 5 years, then I think that's going to be really fun to watch.
For sure. One more question. I got text because people want to know, since you live in Texas, the open border in Texas.
Yeah.
Are you able to kind of tell us what you see going on since you live close to over there, or you guys can do maybe?
Okay. I live so far from the border in Texas. I live in Dallas. So the trip from the border to Dallas is a very long one.
Yes, it is.
So you will notice there's like an influx of people, but it's not anything like it is down on the actual border. So like in Dallas, if nobody said, hey, if I didn't hear a single thing about the border and I just was chilling in Dallas, you might be like, hey, listen, we've got the Hispanic population is clearly growing, and okay, like you would know that, but it's not like all of a sudden we're going, why are there 10,000 people just showed up today? Because they're not. They're showing up down at the border, and then they're getting sent all over.
For sure. So, I've been there. So I'm just, this is just people asking like, what they like to live as a Texas person.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating because to me, like the whole border situation is a mess. And I cannot get away from the real life human suffering that's happening because of this. Like the fact that people are being trafficked. There's
Human
kids.
trafficking, yes.
Yeah, it's awful. And like
Children
that part of this is
being raped.
like it's awful. It's so bad. And so when people try to make this argument about a lot of other things, it's like, listen, that's happening, and it's happening because of how we have this thing set up. And we have to stop this, stop incentivizing this, and so that we can get these kids and these people out of these situations. This is awful. This is evil, and people are dying. It's bad, and we have to figure out how to stop this, just for the sole sake of human suffering. On top of the fact that, like, as a country, this is difficult, and like people are saying, yeah, people should be able to come here because we've got all this stuff. It's like, yeah, but eventually the weight of this, if we can't figure out how to actually bring people in and assimilate and be part of building this country up, well, the country under the weight of that will not be able to handle it. Like, we can't do that. So it's like, we got to figure out this on many facets, but we've got to stop the fact that humans are just getting moved around like cattle.
Yeah, and
like
children are being raped 7 or 8 times a day.
It's awful. Like it's so awful. So to me, it's like, you can argue about the best how and the why, but I'm like, you have to stop this so that we can figure out what to do now. Is our immigration policy broken in general? Absolutely. I've got a sister who works in legal who is like, man, our immigration policy is nuts. So like, we've got people coming over the Mexico border who are just people who are trying to do it the legit way. But it's like, this is going to take years and be awful, or I can just go here, walk across, and then get status, and then I'm in. Like, of course you're going that way. Duh. Sure. So it's like the whole thing's broken, but you've got to stop the influx of just humanity that you have no idea what's happening, and they're just destroying lives. You got to get Mexico to do something about this as well. And other
cartels run that country.
Absolutely. So,
now, would you send our military to take out the cartels?
Not without Mexico's permission.
But I mean, they're allowing the cartels to invade.
Well, yeah, but like, you can still stop them at the border. Like, our job is to stop them at the border. You can't go invade another sovereign country without, like, unless you're going to declare war on Mexico. Like, that becomes America being like, I guess we can go anywhere we want and just like kill people and be like, we're out, we're good. That's a precedent that other countries, like if Mexico did that for us, if like the Mexico Special Forces showed up and just like wiped out a chunk of people in the States, we'd be like,
But in the way they're doing that with the drugs and the trafficking,
but not the country, not the official country, because that's an act of war. To me, what I would do is I would say, we're going to apply lots of economic pressure to Mexico and say, listen,
kind of like what President Trump did a little bit, right?
Right. Something along those lines, where it's like, we're going to apply large amounts of economic pressure on you, and with the offer of, we will come in and help you do this. It has to be joint. You have to be on board with this. But we can come in and we can do this. We can basically, we can try to give you guys a reset. We can try to wipe out this infrastructure and give you a reset. But the thing is, you've got to do it in a way that's like, we're not just going to come in and wipe out the cartel. The problem is, in Mexico, there's a lot of the just existence of humans in Mexico that they don't hate the cartel. Like, there's a whole economy built on this. And so it's like, you've got to be prepared to also go, so now what? A big chunk of, like, literally billions and billions of dollars shows up in our economy because of this. Well, now what? You wiped them all out. Now you got people who were counting on that money. Now, obviously it's a bad situation, but like, also those people, the moment you do that and bail, they want the next cartel. They want the next thing if there's nothing that shows up in its place, right? It's like, you've created a vacuum.
Well, you want to build, once you take that part of the evil out, you want to help flourish their own people there for sure.
And that's got to be what's available. That's got to be what's offered, so that the people there see that and latch onto that and go, yes, this is what we want. And there's a pathway to where you go, look, if we clear this out, we can remove this. Here's what's coming behind it, right? But we have to get rid of this first. And that's like, and that's why I know it's a complicated issue when it comes to that. Because the U.S. could just go in and bomb and like crush the cartel. You wouldn't get all of them. And the infrastructure and the cultural acceptance of that would still exist. And if you don't put anything in its place, it'll be back. You can maybe get a pause. Sure. But like, so you have to have something where like as part of this, we're going to try to build and grow
Yeah,
economics
because you want to
opportunity.
be able to keep people in their own country, and they want to
Yes.
be, and they want to stay in their own country as
Mhm.
well. They'd rather
Yes.
grow up where they're native, you know, but
Yeah.
not have to come here. So
The
yeah, but you,
people have to have hope.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
So that to me is like it has to be multifaceted. And so it's like secure the border, yes, but also it's a long border. People will still figure out ways to do this. So it's like secure the border and wipe out the cartel. Okay, those are 2 steps, but you have to vacuum. And if you don't step in, guess what? There are cartels all over the world that will step into the
for
void
sure.
in Mexico. So it's like
Finish the process of completing.
you
Yeah,
got to
yeah, yeah.
keep going. It's got to be a long-term play if you really want to make a difference.
Yeah.
Now, again, it always starts with we've got to secure this border for so many reasons. For so many reasons, you got to do that.
For
But
sure.
what sucks is that like there's money on both sides of the aisle that's
Yep.
incentivizing not securing it.
Yep.
So it's like when you see that and you know that, it's like, oh great. Well, even the people that I'm hoping that are being the loudest on the border, they're not really going to fix this because
Yeah.
they're
No,
making
it's
money
all
on it.
about, it's all talk. It's because they're
Yeah.
getting paid. Yeah.
Yeah, so that sucks, but that's just a reality
For
of
sure.
it.
Now, real quick, so you still have your video company,
I
video
do.
production company?
Yeah, I still. Yeah,
And so if people wanted to reach out to you, where would they reach out to you? And
you cannot hire me to do videos right now. Here's why. Because what I'm
okay,
doing, primarily what I'm doing, is I'm doing video production. I'm the face of not the face of it, but I'm like one of the spokespeople for a golf company,
okay,
golf manufacturer called Takomo Golf, Takomo. It's a
okay.
company out of Finland. It's a golf manufacturer, and I do like I'm the spokesperson for the company, and I make a bunch of their videos. So if you look them up online, Takomo Golf, you're going to see me playing golf, doing different stuff with different people we work
So
with.
do you play a lot of golf, Tim?
A ton. I'm playing golf a ton. That's literally my job is to go places, play golf, make videos.
Dude, come down to
edit those
Florida and
videos.
play some golf with me. Let's
Dude,
go.
I go down. I've been down to Florida a few times, but like the trips are always nuts. Like when we do a trip, we're like, we're gonna be here for 5 days, and we've got 2 tee times booked each day to film. So it's like we show up, and we've done trips where I was awake for 24 plus hours. I get to Italy, and when I get there, we're not even sleeping. That evening, I'm teeing off and playing 18 holes, filming, and then I get to sleep.
That is awesome.
It's great, but it's also like, man, these trips are crazy. People have asked me like, hey, are you taking your wife and kids along? And I'm like, they wouldn't see me. They would just be like by themselves somewhere because I'm just at the course. Like if the sun's up, we're filming.
That's cool, though.
No, it's great. It's a great gig. But so I do very little outside of the golf world now as far as video production is concerned.
Okay.
One of the things I am passionate about is just helping people communicate their message. Like a lot of businesses, one of the things I've learned in this industry, because I've done it for a long time, is that a lot of businesses don't even know how to market themselves. They don't know why people do business with them, and they don't know what makes them unique. So like people are looking for that type of thing, just like help identifying like what they should, how they should even present themselves, or they just feel like, I don't even know what makes me special. Like, yeah, I can help you with that. Like that's something that I can take some time and do. But you want to hire me to make you a video, man, unless you're writing me a pretty big check, it's going to be hard to pull me off.
Yeah, no worries. I didn't know what.
No, absolutely.
You were doing,
absolutely.
So.
Yeah. No, so
cool.
I am still doing video production, but most of what I'm doing is just in the golf world.
Well, that's awesome.
And
you
I
play
love
with any of the top golfers yet?
So we got one PGA Tour guy. His name is Wesley Bryan. And he's really big on social media, and he's played on the tour. I think he's got 1 win on the PGA Tour. And so we just signed him, but we work with a lot of like people who are making content on YouTube, Instagram, stuff like that. That's where so much of golf marketing is going, because these people are getting hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube videos, and they're not even professional. So like you get more views and get in front of more golfers by sponsoring a dude who's a scratch golfer or like a 3 handicap on YouTube who's got a big audience than you do being on the bag of a professional player.
Wow. What do you like? Do you like the live thing, the live and over the PGA?
Look, man, I've always thought that the moral argument of live versus PGA is a bit silly, because what the PGA Tour did is you look at where the Saudi money that's going into that, the Saudi money, it's like they're not directly putting money in the PGA, but all of the, like most of the big sponsors of the PGA Tour are getting billions from these Saudi funds. So it's like, oh, you just had one person between you and the Saudis. And then you got the money and you're like, see, we're better. And then now we're in talks anyway. Like they're going to take over the PGA Tour too. Yep. So I don't care. Just in general, because it's like you want to throw the moral argument to me. It's like, great. Everyone's in bed with people and everyone's in bed with people who have a bad track record. And also at this point, you can't tell me some of the companies, the US companies that advertise on the PGA Tour, like there's some moral problems with some of those as well. So it's like, which is not to say that like the Saudis 9/11, like it's not to say that that's not a thing, and that, but it's like that's in all of it. Like it's across everything. So if we're gonna like highlight live and be like this is uniquely bad, well then I'm like video games, like your favorite video game is funded by Saudis. Yeah. Like sorry, that's what it is, or in part. So yeah, it's a bit of like you're going to be moral. Yeah. And it's like, good luck with that at this point. Unfortunately, there's very little clean money. Yeah. And look, you're telling me if you're a golfer and I can make more money from these dudes than the other guys, and I still get to play golf, like, and you're also your money's still getting to them too. They're just pretending like it's not.
Exactly.
Whatever.
And who's to say, how do we know what really happened at 9/11 anyway? Supposedly Bush was behind 9/11 and so I'm just saying,
Listen, there's endless questions. There's endless things you could go, what about? And so it's like, to me, that's why the whole argument goes, you drill down in this and nobody's standing on the true moral high ground, being Amen. Like, I am clean as the washed snow. Like, no, you're not. When you're dealing with that kind of money, and it sucks because I wish that was not the case. I genuinely wish if the PGA Tour was what they were kind of presenting themselves to be, it's like, okay, maybe, but they're not. They're lying. So whatever. Like now I'm just mad at you that you tried to make this moral claim. And then now you're literally in conversation with the same people. So whatever. You just look stupid.
I agree. Well, if you ever need a caddy, Tim, let me know. And if you ever come to Florida, man, I would love to even play or see you.
Listen, I'm in Florida. I am in Florida January for the PGA event, PGA show in January 20. I think it's the 23rd, the week of the 23rd. Is that the one in
Tampa?
It's in Orlando.
Oh, dude, let me know.
Yeah. So I'm in there the week of the 23rd. So I'll be there for days there. I'll be doing some filming, going to the show. And then I'm back in Florida in February for another video thing. I don't know exactly where, and the dates are still getting figured out. So I'll be in Florida a little bit, but I'll hit you up.
Yeah, let me know. I'd love to see you, bro. And I really appreciate having you on. And can you let people know where to see your golf videos at again for me?
Yeah. If you look up Takomo Golf, Takomo, Takomo Golf on any of the social media stuff, you'll find me. You'll find our content. It's good stuff. We're just out there having fun. The big thing, like if anybody watching is a golfer, the big thing with Takomo is we manufacture with the same high quality manufacturers as basically everybody else. We use the same high quality stuff. We've just cut out like the middle people, and we're not paying the top golfers in the world millions of dollars to play our clubs, so we can offer them at way less. So like a full set of brand new irons, they start at like under $500.
Oh wow!
But they still have like the KBS shafts and the lambkin grips, and they're still like made out of the best material. So it's like, I mean, look, it's honestly, it's a great deal. Only reason I work with them is because I initially reached out, and then I got to play the clubs, and I saw them. I met the guys. They're Finnish company, and they're like really good dudes. And I was like, oh, I like you guys. Like, you seem actually legit. So yes, I will put my face in front of this because like I actually believe in what we're doing here. I could have just said no. Like, I had to work to make turn this into like an actual long-term gig. Yeah. So I could have just not. But after being there, meeting the guys, seeing the product, using the product, I was like, this is actually very legit, and I want to be a part of it. So
that's awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, God bless you and your family, man.
You as well.
Please tell everybody I said hello. Have a Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year. And I look forward to seeing you on. And I'm really grateful to have you on today and catch up, man. It's been too long, and let's stay in touch, man. I miss you, bro.
Yeah, you as well. Absolutely. It's great to catch up with you. Great to talk. And yeah, look, man, just be encouraged. Okay. Be
Yes, sir.
encouraged. This is it's a crazy time, but crazy times are opportunities
I
for
agree.
for
Greatest
more
time in
intimacy.
world history right now.
It's yeah. Hey, I've got to say, and I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with this. Um, whatever is happening in people's lives, all right, whatever the time is, um, everybody has to live through something. Everybody has to live through something. And people have lived through every type of crazy, awful, and good and bad. People have lived through all of this. So everybody has to live through something. How you live through that is the question. And what's going on around you does not dictate how you live through it. How you live through it is dictated by your identity and your relationship with God. So it's the same thing it's been in every other time in history.
Yes, sir. I love it.
All right, man.
Hey, bro.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Merry Christmas.
You too, and let me know what you think of the Texas Washington game when they play.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know. All
All
right.
right, bro.
Peace.
Take care. That's Tim Urban, everyone. I want to thank him for coming on today. And this is the Brian Perras Show. We will do the closing thoughts today, as Tim even said. You know, it's we're living in a time of what will you do? How will you come out of it? How will you handle what is going on in the world today? Um, for the men, keep fighting, brothers. Keep turning to God. Don't lose hope. Fight for what you want, for the desires of your heart. Allow God to lead you and guide you. Surrender to Him. That's the most important thing in this aspect, is turning to your spirituality to God. And I'm really grateful for this show today. I'm grateful for anybody and all of you that have tuned in. And I hope this helped at least one person today. And that's what matters. It's about one person at a time, picking them up, helping them up, dusting everything off of them, and just pulling through together as people. You know, this is how we come together. It's one person at a time, doing the right thing, standing on the principles. And as we close out, you know, I don't usually like to pray on this thing because, you know, prayer, it's a show. You know, a lot of times people do it for show. But I just want to say real quick, you know, Lord, I just pray for anybody out there right now. I just pray that whoever's struggling or seeking hope or seeking something bigger than them, Lord, I just pray right now that they seek you, Lord, turn to you, surrender themselves to you. And I pray for healing, and I pray for love, and I just pray for hope, that you take the fear out of them, Lord. And I just pray for grace and mercy upon us all. Lord, I thank you and I praise you. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen and amen. God bless you all. God bless this constitutional republic. Merry Christmas to each and every single one of you. Happy New Year. And take care of yourselves, all right? God bless you all. My name is Brian Perras. You are watching the